Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Eagles Latest on Fan Arch. I'm your host, Blake McQueary, and we are back. I took obviously a little bit of break, a few days break. Had to do a few things in my life. I don't think much people are mad about that break because obviously what has been going on with the Philadelphia Eagles and their struggles, everything in Philly sports. I mean, you guys needed a break or two from me and my yapping. So I gave you guys that. But now we are back. It is officially a new week. Obviously, like you guys know on this channel, Wednesdays are the start of the new week. That is the shift of focus to a new opponent, with obviously the Eagles going back to practice every Wednesday. So we are back now fully. So new week, obviously. Up next, the Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles shift their focus after 2 tough weeks. So we have a lot to talk about. First things up is Zadarius Smith. Eagles veteran edge rusher Z. Smith announced his retirement on social media Monday. That obviously came as a shock to a lot of people. He informed the team of his decision on Monday. He announced it on Instagram. It was a sudden departure, obviously, for Smith, who just signed with Philadelphia a few weeks ago. But Z Smith, obviously, the things that he's done in this league, who he is as a as a player, very, very productive player, and really not ideal for the Eagles. Obviously, the edge room not looking too well right now. It's a position of need for this team. I think it is a major part of their struggles the past 2 weeks. So not the ideal thing to happen currently for this Eagles team, but it is what it is. The Eagles, they came into the season with question marks at edge rusher, following obviously the departures of Eagles legend Brandon Graham, who retired, losing Josh Sweat, who had a huge game in the Super Bowl, a huge part of the Eagles' Super Bowl win. That position obviously took a further hit when Nolan Smith Jr. was placed on IR in late September. And then Agbo Okonkwo, he was also placed on IR with a triceps injury after the Week 4 game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Smith, he was signed to a 1-year, $4.25 million contract following Week 1. So obviously, Smith signing with the Eagles not too long ago during the season, he made an instant impact for this team. He had totaled 1.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 tackles for loss over just 5 games. And he had a few incentives on his contract. I don't know if anybody really knew this, but he did have incentives on his contract, according to a copy that this was obtained by ESPN. He received an additional $250,000 for 5 sacks, $500,000 if he reached 7 sacks, and $1 million for 9. And I think that number actually totaled like $2.5 million if he reached 15 sacks or more. So he had a lot of incentives on his contract, which is another shock as to him kind of calling it quits. He finishes his career with 70.5 total sacks, 176 QB hits, and 87 tackles for loss in 145 games. Former teams he played for, obviously, the Baltimore Ravens, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions last year, and now the Eagles. A few reasons why Smith might have retired. Actually, my philosophy into why I think Zadarius Smith retired. Ultimately, he was getting to that age. He has been around for a long time. An 11-year, 12-year vet. I mean, your body takes a toll in the NFL. Probably was his time. I think maybe also after the past 2 weeks that the Eagles have had, Zadarius might have looked in the mirror a little bit and said, hey, I'm not sure this Eagles team is much of a contender. I don't think that. Obviously, we will get into that in a little bit. You can see league fate is on the ticker, so we will talk about the Eagles' fate in this league in a little bit. But you got to think. I mean, a player that age signing a contract in the middle of the season and then announcing his retirement a few weeks later, it really makes you think, why are they retiring? And I think that could have just been the reason. I think it's ultimately one, his body taking a toll, the amount of games he has played. I just listed that number, 145 games. I mean, I think he's done what he's done in this league. I think he was looking for a ring. Obviously wanted a Super Bowl ring to end his career, but I think the hard look in the mirror, balancing that out with how he felt, he didn't feel like he could continue this season. So congratulations to Darius Smith for announcing his retirement. It's a huge hit for the Eagles. Obviously, like I said, not likely. There's going to be some guys who have to step up. Obviously, Josh Uch, Aziz Ojulari, Jalex Hunt, those three guys, they need to step up. Do I see the Eagles going to possibly trade for an edge rusher? Obviously, the trade deadline approaching. We all know who Howie Roseman is as a GM, the things that he can do. Continuing to build this roster, continuing to do things to improve this roster. Wouldn't be a shock to me if they went and got an edge rusher. I don't think they will. I think they will stick it out. Nolan Smith, geared to come back around week 9, probably not until week 10-ish, around there. I think also with this news, they gear up either Nakobe Dean or Jahad Campbell to start kind of learning that edge rusher position for this Eagles defense. I think their focus should be on a cornerback. I think that is their focus. I think that will be their focus if they do explore a trade. That should be the focus. Edge rusher should not be the focus there if you're going to go and trade for a player. So that is that. Once again, congratulations to Z Smith on his retirement. Huge news, things like that. Now, we're going to get into the C.J. Gardner-Johnson news. Well, not really news, but a lot of fans, a lot of you guys are really showing C.J. Gardner-Johnson some love. A lot of people want him back. I did, obviously, a segment on it when he was released by the Texans a few weeks ago, basically kind of mapping out his release from the Houston Texans, why he got released, and then also analyzing if there was a possibility of him coming back. If you don't know, if you're new to you're not updated on the life of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He was released by the Houston Texans a few weeks ago. Obviously, that was another thing that came as a surprise. The Texans reworked his contract right before they released him. He only played in 3 games for the Texans. He totaled 15 tackles in those 3 games, 1 QB hit, so he was being productive for their defense. Obviously, locker room issues was a deciding factor, according to reports. He was complaining about his role. He wanted to blitz more, even communicated that he wanted to be traded. We know, obviously, Gardner-Johnson having a big personality. He's one of those guys who is kind of, very loud, very vocal. There were similar issues, I think, in Philly that were reported. That ultimately led to him being traded this past summer after the Super Bowl win. Howie obviously chalked it up as a money issue. I think, like I said, there's still love between C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Philly. Obviously, the fans absolutely love him. They want him back. That is all. That's like half of Eagles Twitter right now is fans and you guys talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, wanting him back, things like that. Now, like I said, it's going to be tough for them to get him back. There's a rule in the NFL handbook. It's under reaccusation of a traded player. Basically, a player cannot return to the club that took A traded player cannot return to a club that took such action until 2 seasons has elapsed. But I think what happened was with the signing of his contract, it actually allows him to come back to Philly if he were to want to come back. And obviously, if Philly wanted him back, I think a lot of people are missing a big detail, and it's the fact that Nick Sirianni spoke on this matter a few days after the release of C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Houston Texans. He was asked on if he wanted C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, if he's kind of seen it maybe being a possibility. Nick Sirianni basically shut that down. He said he really loves where his secondary room is right now. He loves the guys that are in it. Obviously, he kind of, wished all the best to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but basically was kind of saying like, hey, obviously a lot of people are entertaining that idea, but we're not as an organization, as a coaching staff. I'm not entertaining that. So basically like a let's move on type of deal. Do I think they go back and get him? Here's my thing. I think a lot of people are kind of overstepping and over analyzing, the Eagles' want for him back as a facility, as a team. I don't think they really want him back. Like I said, I am pretty confident it was the same issues that led to him not getting re-signed by the Eagles this past summer, letting him go. Like I said, there was just love between the two sides, and they chalked it up as a money issue. They didn't want, that reputation to be tarnished. They didn't want that out there as a reason of why the two sides weren't reunited after that Super Bowl win. So I don't see them going and getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I also think safety's not an issue right now. Reed Blankenship is the guy. Andrew Makuba, a rookie, but he's the guy. He's shown flashes of him being the guy. So I don't see why. I mean, obviously, the fans and you guys, you want that personality aspect on the team. You want that mindset, the leadership of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and what he brings physicality-wise. But I don't see a world in this team signing him back. So that's that on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We're not going to talk much more about him. We are going to talk about the Eagles' fate. How do they fare in the NFL currently? I think some people are overreacting. I think fans are overreacting. I think analysts on TV are overreacting. I think insiders are overreacting. We know that the past 2 weeks, obviously, this Eagles team has not. We know all season, matter of fact, this Eagles team has not been playing well. The results have shown the past 2 weeks, obviously falling to the Denver Broncos and then the New York Giants, who were not good at all. Actually, had one win heading into their Thursday night matchup last Thursday against the Eagles. So there are some demons to be dealt with in Philadelphia right now. But I think if you look at, everyone that's talking about, this Eagles team isn't going back to the Super Bowl. They are not going to make the, same impact that they did last year, do what they did last year, blah, blah, blah. One, going back to the Super Bowl is very hard in back-to-back seasons. But two, a lot of people are overanalyzing it, and it's because they're not looking at how the rest of the teams look in the NFL right now. Literally almost everyone's beating everybody. No one's undefeated. The Eagles were one of two teams to be the last two standing as undefeated teams. In that week, both of those teams lost. The other team was the Bills. Everyone's beating on everybody. And if you look at the NFC, that's clearly happening. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in first place right now in the NFC. They are atop of the NFC conference. They have the best record. They're 5-1. The Eagles beat them. If people don't remember, the Eagles beat them. The Lions. A lot of people talk about the Detroit Lions being obviously the biggest threat to Philly's Super Bowl reign. They just lost to the Chiefs the other night on Sunday Night Football. And if you really look at who the Lions have played, I mean, they get a 30-point win against the Chicago Bears, and then they go and beat the Browns and the Bengals. Not very impressive wins at all. They've lost to two very good teams, the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, like, no one is standing out as this favorite, right? I mean, you can point at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers; they're 5-1, but no one's standing out as this favorite dominant team right now in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers, everyone thought they were going to the Super Bowl after Week 1. They went and tied with the Dallas Cowboys and lost to the Cleveland Browns. I just think a lot of people are overreacting when it comes to the Eagles. Obviously, the play, it hasn't done them justice. It hasn't, been the best in terms of the eye test. I talked about the eye test a couple episodes ago. They don't look the best, clearly, on both sides of the football. The offense has looked terrible all year. Very predictable, very vanilla. I've talked about that on this channel a lot. I just think that people should slow down when it comes to the predictions and things like that. Obviously, it's still pretty early in the season. We're entering week 6, so we're just now getting out of. We're really just now starting the second quarter of the season. And if you guys know, there's 4 quarters to football. So the Eagles will be just fine. I think people, pipe it down a little bit. Now, moving on. Coordinators. The Eagles coordinators talked on Tuesday to the media about the game plan against the Minnesota Vikings, where they see things right now, currently, how they're analyzing things like that, blah, 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 whatever. Kevin Patullo, Vic Fangio. Just a few notes on kind of what they had talked about a little bit. Fangio, he kind of, obviously, the Vikings, they pose a challenge. He kind of talked about that no matter who their quarterback is. That's kind of the discussion right now on the other side of things. With the Minnesota Vikings, who is going to be their quarterback come Sunday. We know, obviously, J.J. McCarthy, he went down after week 2 with a knee injury. He actually returned to practice this week after missing 3 games with a knee injury. Or is it going to be former Eagles number 2 overall pick, Carson Wentz, who has been 2-1, taking over for J.J., he's at a 99.5 passer rating in his 3 starts. Vic Fangio said, quote, "They are similar. They're both athletic. They both do a good job running this offense. This is a good offense we're going against. It's a good scheme. It's packaged well together. They do a good job of calling plays. It's a tough offense." So he kind of sees it as no matter who the quarterback is, this is a very good offense. And I agree. They have Kevin O'Connell, one of the best coaches in the NFL, on their side. They both do play similar. They're quarterbacks who can throw the ball well, but they can also use their legs when they need to and be productive in that aspect of the game. So, no matter who's at quarterback, obviously this Vikings team, their offense is going to be tough. It's going to be even more tough, obviously, if Quinyon Mitchell cannot play. Fangio still doesn't know whether Mitchell is going to return this week or not from that hamstring injury he suffered against the Giants. The secondary is going to be tested against Minnesota no matter Quinion's back or not. They got Justin Jefferson, arguably the best wide receiver in the league. They got Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson at tight end. Fangio actually did say that as of right now, it's going to be Adoree Jackson starting at cornerback. If Quinion Mitchell's not going to return, obviously it's going to be Jackson and Ringo. Not ideal for the Eagles, especially against the wide receivers that I just named off. But like I said in last episode, Nakobe Dean, this needs to be the week for him. It needs to be. Like I said, also, if I'm Vic Fangio, I am finding a way to have Nakobe Dean and Jahad Campbell on the field at the same time. I don't care. I know he said the whole thing about the edge thing, not moving Jahad Campbell to the edge. Do what you got to do. I think both of them on the field, the Eagles have the best chances at winning. And that's what they need to do. On the other side of things, on offense, obviously the offense needs to do some soul searching. We've all known this all year long so far. They need to do some soul searching. They have not been good. Kevin Patullo, he searching for things with this offense. There have been times where the offense has been on fire, and then there have been times where the offense has been ice cold. Kevin Patullo, he said, quote, I think when you look at just the progress from the first game until now, each game has been very different. When you look at just where we want to go, we know there's a lot of areas we want to improve on and be more consistent in. I think that's the biggest thing is just consistency. And it's our job as a staff to continue to put the players in the best position. And then we've just got to execute it and work as a full unit together and continue to build and grow. I actually like what Kevin Patullo said there. I think that has been a big issue with this offense is they are very inconsistent. I want to point out something he said. It's our job as a staff to continue to put the players in the best position, and then we've got to execute it and work as a full unit together to continue to build and grow. If you've heard Saquon in post-game interviews, things like that, he has preached on everyone being on the same page. A.J. Brown has even mentioned it. Everyone needs to get on the same page. Everyone needs to be on the same page so that they can play the football that everyone is expecting them to play as an offense. And that is what it comes down to. They've got to be more effective. They got to be more effective on first and second downs. That leads to more manageable third down situations. That is going to be something to watch on Sunday versus the Vikings. Obviously, until we see this Eagles offense play two halves of football every week, it's going to be watching how they improve as an offense, watching if they're consistent, and if they can move the football on first and second down. So we will have obviously more looking at the Minnesota Vikings later this week. But as always, continue to comment. I stress that a lot. We want to be able to go over your guys' thoughts, your questions, whatever you guys have. I want to do that, try to do that at least twice a week now. So comment. As always, stay up to date with Eagles latest on FanArch. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.